Welcome to We Learn Virtual Learning Network. This is session number 17th of the subject Modern Indian Political Thought, and the chapter is Swami Dayanand Saraswati, Swami Vivekanand and V.D. Savarkar. Let's see the topics to be covered. Introduction, Swami Dayanand Saraswati, Swami Vivekananda and V.D. Savarkar. The political ideas of the three important figures that you'll be studying in this unit represent, in religious terms, three different approaches and ideas. That is, three different approaches and ideas of three different political reformers. Dayanand Saraswati was a passionate believer in the final authority of the Vedas, that Vedas hold the final authority. His appeal for the revival of Vedic Hinduism had little patience with polytheism and the countless meaningless rituals associated with it. So his appeal that for revival of Vedic Hinduism and there should be no meaningless rituals or religious practices associated with it. Swami Vivekananda, on the other hand, despite an equally fervent desire to reform Hindu society, fervent means enthusiastic desire, and protected from evil materialistic influences of the West, drew his inspiration mainly from Vedantic philosophy. So Swami Vivekananda drew his inspiration from the Vedantic philosophy and had an enthusiastic desire to reform the Hindu society and also protect it from the evil materialistic influences of the West, and to also reform it, including the more relevant features and removing the superstitions and the other caste or religious practices or the negativity from it. So he basically drew his inspiration from Vedantic philosophy. Swami Dayanand Saraswati, let's see the biographical sketch. Born at Morvi in Kathiawar, Gujarat, in Samavedi Brahmin caste, at 21 he ran away from home to escape getting married. From 1845 to 1860 he wandered to different places in search of knowledge. So this was the biographical sketch of Swami Dayanand Saraswati. And the political ideas, Swami Dayanand Saraswati was one of those influential thinkers who drew upon traditions for the formulation of his social ideas. So for him, the traditions, the practices being followed from a long period of time were a formulation of his ideas. His main contention was that it was necessary for Indians to go back to the ideas of the Vedas. So the main contention was that it was necessary to go back to Vedas to derive information and to derive knowledge from there. So this is what he said, that Vedas considered knowledge and a lot of information for the Indians to have. Women, education and democracy. On the question of women, Dayanand was opposed to the evil practices of child marriage and enforced widowhood, which according to him did not have the sanction of Vedas. Vedas never sanctify child marriage or sati or enforced widowhood. And these were the evil practices which were happening against women at the time. So he wanted to remove all these practices and bring in social reforms wherein the women can enjoy the benefits of education and also their freedom. The pitiable condition of child widows in Hindu society, which prohibited remarriage, evoked his deepest concern, where child widows were there, and because child marriage happened, and due to that child widows were there, and this prohibited his deepest concern for remarriage and for also making women realize the importance of education and not marriage at a so young age. He therefore suggested Nigoga and widow remarriage. He suggested widow remarriage. The first is the idea of an enlightened monarchy, a concept that he borrowed from Manusmriti. Enlightened monarchy, where monarchy means there would be a king and he would be enlightened enough to work for the welfare of the people, he would be kind, or he would be knowledgeable enough to give all the facilities and to give all the welfare facilities to the people and work for their development and progress. The second somewhat contradictory notion is that of elective representation, where there would be elective representation, and that contradicts the idea of enlightened monarchy. Enlightened monarchy, he is saying that there would be one person who would be the in charge and who would be ruling the people, but working for the welfare of them, and the second elective representation where the people would be representing the leaders. So that is contradictory. Swami Vivekananda Philosophy and concept of freedom. Swami Vivekananda was one of the most influential religious thinkers of 19th century India. His writings basically dealt with the freedom of man, its nature, norms, scope, and the idea of equating freedom with equality. So, Swami Vivekananda's ideas were more of equating freedom. Whenever people had freedom, they had equality. When there is no freedom, there is no equality. So, he equated freedom with equality. According to Vivekananda, the universe was an illusory expression of the Brahma, the creator. So there was an illusory expression of the creator. The universe wasn't that. Maya or illusion contained virtues such as knowledge, creativity, and instinctive desires, which in fact was the visible image of the creator. So Maya or the illusion or whatever the illusion is formed, that considered virtues, that is considered that is considered of knowledge, creativity, instinctive desires. This was the visible image of the creator. Brahma had immense power to hold the universe together, and its influence was felt in each and every object of its creation. So Brahma had this immense power to hold the universe and to hold the universe together, and its influence was felt in each and every object, in each and every thing he made in the universe. So this was about Brahma and his illusory expression. This was also felt. Concept of nationalism and politics. Vivekananda elaborated and developed a theory of nationalism that was based on religion. According to him, like music, each nation had a main note, a central theme, compared to which everything else was secondary. India's theme he identified as religion, and it had to be made the backbone of national life. So, religion was the central theme which had to be made the backbone of national life, and it has to be reformed, it has to be overhauled, and the evil practices, superstitions which were there that has to be removed completely. The future greatness of any nation could be built only on the foundations of its past greatness. So, only when a nation had a good history, or had a good past, only then the future can be built, can be great, or that only then the future can be good. Religion had been a creative force of integration and stability. So religion had been a force of integration, stability, of unity, and of also to maintain togetherness. So this was felt by Swami Vivekananda, that religion had to be a creative force. So now, V.D. Savarkar, a biographical sketch of V.D. Savarkar that was from May 1883 to Feb 1966. He was an ardent nationalist and a heroic revolutionary terrorist. He came into the limelight by his daring political exploits in the early decades of the 20th century. He did some bravery, heroic acts, political exploits, and he came into limelight by doing this. And that was only in the 20th century. He studied in England from 1906 to 1910 and simultaneously carried on revolutionary activities as well. In England, he came into contact with other revolutionaries like Madam Kama, Lala Hardayal, and Madan Lal Dhingra. He was sentenced to 50 years imprisonment and spent many years in the Andamans. So, he did quite revolutionary acts, heroic acts of an ardent nationalist, and he also spent many years in imprisonment. So this was the biographical sketch of V.D. Savarkar. V.D. Savarkar's political philosophy revolved around the nationhood of India. The geographical expression of Indian nationalism was equated with its cultural aspect. So the geographical expression was related or was equated with the cultural part, or was with the cultural aspect. He intensely argued that contrary to the notion that Hinduism is a system of religion followed by a large number of Hindus, it is the Hindutva or the Hindu factor residing in the minds and the conscience of Indian people that lay at the crux of India's nationhood. India's nationhood was formed on the basis of Hinduism that was followed by a large number of Hindus, or that consisted of Hindu factor, or the large number of Hindus that was there in the minds and conscience of the Indian people. That was also the basis of forming the India's nationhood. The Hindutva thus encompassed a variety of religions indigenous to this land, as also its people residing within the geographic proximity of the country. So people who resided within the geographic proximity or within a certain area, and that also is encompassing various religions, not only Hindu religion but also various religions it integrated, and various religions were also in that mainstream. So this was all about Swami Dayanand Saraswati, Swami Vivekanand and V.D. Savarkar's political sketch and their political activities of what they did of giving India the freedom, of giving India independence, and of giving social reforms, of removing superstitious practices and also superstitions which were there in the religion, like sati or child marriage, and also widow marriage. And he made it clear that there would be women's education and there would be democracy and education for women and for the upliftment of their pitiable condition. These are some of the questions. You have to do it yourself. Question 1, critically examine Vivekananda's views on freedom. And question number 2, what did nationalism mean to Vivekananda? Thank you. Happy learning. We learning.